If you're familiar with me or this channel in the slightest, then you're probably aware of how I feel about Trump supporters. But for those of you who might not be, here you go. So if you're supporting a candidate who is working to take away rights from, like, people that you know, I don't understand how you can expect marginalized people to not be upset about it and to not feel like their friends and family who are voting against their own rights are not, like, betraying them in some way.
So us saying that racism exists and is a problem, and calling out that racism by educating others, led to you electing a racist? All of the other conservatives in Congress who support Trump seem to only really think of Americans as people who were exactly like them.
Fuck our politicians. Fuck Trump supporters. Fuck you all. In response to the moments when I have admittedly lost my cool, or whatever cool I started out with in the first place, I consistently receive responses from people, many conservative, but some not, saying, it's a difference of opinion. Voting a certain way or having a specific political stance doesn't make you a bad person. So the question I want to explore today is, can you separate politics from morality? Is that even possible? Here's an example. Say two people both believe on a conceptual level that all people deserve equality. However, the differences in their political stances stem from a fundamental disagreement on how equality should be accomplished. The first person, a conservative, believes that in order to achieve equality, we must treat every single person the same way, no matter what. This is regardless of a person's race, gender, sexual orientation, educational level, family background, etc. It doesn't matter if you grew up poor and didn't have access to an education, or if you're disabled and need certain accommodations, you will be held to the same standard as people who grew up with money and aren't disabled. The second person, a liberal, believes that in order to achieve equality, we need to meet people where they're at. And sometimes that means treating people differently based on the disadvantages they've had in life. The second person understands that the United States has been built on a system of oppression and inequality. From European colonizers committing genocide against Native Americans, to the enslavement of Black folks, to discrimination against Trump supporters on dating sites. That's the same thing, right? Due to the long history of inequality in America, the second person understands that additional efforts need to be made to make up for that inequality. It's not and has never been a level playing field. Pretending that everyone has the same access to money, education, housing, job opportunities, political power, etc., only perpetuates these inequalities even further. Okay, so here's an example within an example. Insert obligatory inception joke. Let's say a high school senior is applying for college. She grew up in poverty and even spent some nights lying in bed with an empty stomach. Her parents worked long, hard hours, more than most parents she knew who made substantially more money. But regardless, they were still poor. Because thanks, capitalism. Despite the many setbacks that this high school senior experienced, she worked hard. Harder than most of her friends, and she received good grades and excellent marks on her SATs. She was accepted to several colleges she was hoping to get into. However, when it came down to it, there was no way in hell that she'd ever be able to afford tuition. If you were to ask the first person, who believes in treating everybody equally regardless of circumstances, they would say that no one deserves to receive special treatment. Other parents have to use their hard-earned money to pay for tuition, so why should this one particular student receive aid? But if you were to ask the second person, who believes in meeting people where they're at, they would argue that impoverished students should be able to receive financial aid. She worked just as hard as the other students who got in, but faced significant disadvantages outside of her control. And her parents worked just as hard, if not harder, than all the other parents. One person believes in equality of treatment, even though that often leads to vast inequalities. And the other person believes in treating people differently based on their life circumstances in order to create a more equal playing field. So while both people would say that they believe in equality on a conceptual level, their ideas of equality are actually very, very different. So where do we draw the line between politics and morality? Personally, I think it's pretty damn near impossible to untangle the two. Your politics are determined by your own moral compass and what you think it means to do the right thing. Your politics are a direct reflection of how you think the world should work and how people should be treated. But sometimes there's a disconnect, where a person theoretically believes in a moral concept, but their politics directly oppose that concept. Like a Christian who believes in helping the poor, but then votes against social systems that would end up helping the poor. This disconnect can happen for many reasons, such as educational level, family and upbringing, Fox News, and of course the policies that you vote for and the politicians that you vote into power have direct material effects on other people's lives. This ranges from the local level, where your vote might determine whether or not your community gets better public transportation, to the national level, where politicians you vote in might decide on whether or not gay marriage should be legalized for the whole country. And then there's the global level, which I don't want to think about right now. I think right now the United States is in a place where politics are terrifying and the stakes are higher than they have been in a while. For people who voted against Donald Trump, it has always been clear that he is incredibly bigoted and dangerous as a politician, and very clearly wants to emulate other dictators, and that should scare you.
This president is an autocrat. He is not a small d Democrat. He doesn't believe in liberal democracy. And what we're seeing here every day are 5 behaviors. 1, he incites fervor in a base through constant lying.
I will never lie to you.
2, he scapegoats minority populations, and he affixes blame for complex problems to them and them alone.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
3, he alleges conspiracies that are hidden and nefarious and linked to those scapegoated populations.
Explained his popular vote loss by blaming 3 to 5 illegal votes. Again, zero evidence for this.
4, he spreads a sense of victimizations among those fervent supporters. And 5, he asserts the need to exert heretofore unprecedented power to protect his victim class from the conspiracies and the scapegoated populations.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine Quijano. We are seeing the impact of the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy for illegal immigration at the border. It means adults coming into the U.S. without authorization are being criminally prosecuted, and children coming with them can be taken away, at least temporarily. Images of children being separated from parents and parents being held in large locked cages are generating strong reaction, including disapproval from 4 former first ladies, as well as the current one, Melania Trump.
But many across the country supported the president's zero-tolerance policy.
Did those images of children bother you?
No, because they're well catered for. We're paying $700 a day per child.
She says, "I promise I'll behave, but please get me out of here. I'm all alone." This as we learned of those so-called tender age shelters where some of the youngest children are kept, including babies. A visiting doctor saying she found traumatized children, one crying inconsolably.
Through all of history, you understand totalitarianism. You understand how democracies fall. You will find those 5 behaviors.
After Trump was elected, there were a lot of articles that came out about Trump supporters who were regretting their votes. And I also see a lot of people argue that their friends and family members who supported Trump and his discriminatory policies aren't bad people. They're good people deep down. And what I really want to get at is the idea of being a good person deep down.
That's the thing. I don't think I believe in deep down. I kind of think all you are is just the things that you do.
Well, that's depressing.
Do I believe that because people are human and they might be ignorant or manipulated by media or not have access to the same resources and information as other people, do I believe that that makes them inherently bad people? I get that not everyone just comes out of the womb being woke, and I get that we're all in different places in our learning process and in our own personal growth. However, when you get down to it, your vote and the politicians that you support and bring into power matters. Your politics directly affect marginalized people's lives. At the end of the day, the question of whether or not you can separate politics from morality is a luxury that most marginalized people don't have. Does it matter to undocumented people who are fleeing violence from their own countries and seeking refuge and being told that they are criminals? Does it matter to undocumented children who are being ripped away from their families and put into cages? Whether or not you're a good person deep down? Probably not. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss out on one of my videos. Also, this is completely voluntary, but if you would like to help support this channel and Feminist Fridays, then please consider donating to my Patreon page, which will be linked below.